Hey everybody, Mark Comfort here and Marcy New. Marcy is our AMA Waterways representative. Marcy, can we still say Happy New Year to everybody?
We certainly can, Mark, and a Happy New Year it is going to be because we will be sailing.
You know, we will be, and I'm very, very pleased. All indications right now with everything that, part of my job, part of Marcy's job and her company's job is to get in all this information on trends of what's happening, primarily COVID numbers, primarily what policies different countries are requiring, who gets to go where and what you need to go where. But the good news is, I'll tell you, there's a silver lining in this Omicron variant, and here's the silver lining real quick, and it's already happened in Great Britain, it's already happened in South Africa and India and many, many other countries, is the incredible contagiousness of this variant has just gone crazy, as you probably know, as I sure know. And the real reality is, you call it herd immunity or you call it whatever you want, we're getting to the stage that there are much fewer people that can get a COVID infection. And so the reality is very simply, people are either vaccinated or they have had COVID and have it in their system, antibodies or whatever you call it, and that's a good thing. Because as this COVID goes down, the COVID numbers go down, and it will. It already has started. I was just reading right before we got on here, there's been 8 states already that show declines as of today, as of yesterday actually, of over 30% drop in cases, and we're going to see that all over the United States, and I do believe we'll see it all over the world. Now, that is really good because that gets us out of the pandemic stage and into the endemic stage. And good Lord, I've learned more about medical stuff than I ever thought I'd learn. But the reality is we want to be in the endemic stage. The endemic stage is what the influenza virus is. It's going to be around, but the cases are steady. They're not spiking like this, and the severity, especially if you're vaccinated, are very, very minor compared to what they were with the first COVID-19 that came along when people were not vaccinated, when there's no vaccination even available. So all of this bodes very well. But I want to be really candid with you about what we see in our business, what we hear and read about what's going to happen and what is happening right now in January 2022, and how we see this taking place and what it will accomplish, what will happen in the next several months and the next year. So very simply, it's this. The CDC has most certainly not been the ocean cruise industry's friend. And when they just, in my humble opinion, and you know how prejudiced I am, foolishly knee-jerk reaction and put the ocean cruise industry back into level 4, it has created a huge pause in ocean cruising. Now, hear me very carefully with that statement. A huge pause in ocean cruising. And when I say ocean cruising, I'm talking about the big, gigantic ships. The American public right now, they're so tired. We have COVID burnout, meaning very simply, people are tired of sitting around and not doing things. They want to do things. They know the sands of time are ticking down in many cases, and they want to do some things they've wanted to do. They want to do bucket list trips. And that is happening. That's happening in incredibly record numbers. Our 2022 already, even with this pause in ocean cruising, has skyrocketed. And we are looking, Mimi and I are looking to have maybe the best year we've ever had, even with this stuff that's going on right now. Why is that? Because people are still going on vacation and they're doing it domestically, or they're doing all-inclusive resorts, or you want to know what? The river cruise industry, kind of the silver lining in this thing, is so many ocean cruise customers are booking river cruises. Now, granted, they're booking them in second quarter, May, June, July, third quarter, fourth quarter. We see a lot of that. 2023 business is already way, way up. But people are buying and wanting smaller. They're buying and wanting more luxury. They're wanting a better accommodations. They're wanting to do things before and after. They're looking to do back to back. In my 33 years in this business, I have never seen more long cruises, meaning I mean, like Marcy just introduced AMA Waterways introduced a 45-day they introduced a spring 45-day cruise, 7 rivers in 2023, spring of 2023. Sold out in gosh, I forget, Marcy, what, less than a month?
In 2 weeks. In
2
2
weeks.
weeks.
And then you opened up a fall, same
Uh-huh.
thing. 7 river cruises, 14 countries, 45 or 46 days, and it sold out in what length of time?
That one was almost 3 weeks. I mean, right between 2 and 3 weeks.
It's just a little bit longer, yeah, but it was still, you think about it,
Yeah.
less than a month. 45-day cruises. So, and they're back to back to back. They're 5 7-day cruises back to, or wait a minute, 6 7-day cruises back to back with a pre-package. So anyway, long story short, that's happening all over. More people are doing back to backs. Today, we're going to be talking about a back-to-back opportunity, if it's of interest to you, and talking about a couple really unique itineraries. The first one we're going to talk about starting October 10th is going to be the Gems of Southeast Europe in what's called the Lower Danube, or into the Eastern Europe block of countries, which personally I'm just so excited about. You know why? Kind of like Portugal that we'll talk about in a second. I don't know anything about the Eastern Bloc countries. I know so many of the people from Romania and Bulgaria and Serbia work on the river cruise ships, and especially on AMA Waterways, and they're spectacular people. And they are so proud of the countries they are from, their native countries. Part of what talked Mimi and I into doing this was one of our room steward and one of our butlers on the AMA Magna. When we did that, he was from Romania, and he talked about how incredibly beautiful Romania was and how the people are so warm and hospitable. So I'm so excited about this. And again, I think this being in October is going to be a tremendous time. I predict that in the next 30 to 60 days, most river cruises in summertime and fall will be sold out, because people want to go. They do know they want to give a little extra time just to get all the numbers going down and things kind of settle down and get into this endemic stage. And that's exactly what's going to happen. But back to my original point, it's unbelievable how the big cruise ships are hurting from the CDC's requirements.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up, the silver line is it's helping the river cruise industry. So Marcy, I know you see the same thing, right? You're our representative and you cover the entire Midwest, but you also know what the numbers are for your company. Are you seeing the same thing in your company as we're seeing here at Cruise Holidays Kansas City, where numbers and sales like this are just going strong?
Yes, Mark, we are. We are seeing, as you mentioned earlier, the back-to-backs, but we are seeing a lot of the big ship cruisers moving over to the river for, I think, a multitude of reasons. But a couple of the reasons are, as you mentioned, it's a more intimate experience. It's a first class experience with luxury. It's not as many people, so you don't have the opportunity there that you do on the bigger ships. And I think, to be very honest, people are looking for that special experience in a vacation.
Agreed.
And the rivers, yes, the rivers really enable us to allow the guests to immerse themselves in local culture. And I think that is, again, one of the big reasons why all of a sudden everybody says, gosh, you know what? I haven't been out in 2 years or a year and a half. I want to see my friends. I'm taking my family. I'm, my neighbors, whomever it may be, or it's just my wife and I going. And we are going to immerse ourselves in every part of these countries that we possibly can. And the rivers do that because we're the vessels and veins of these countries. So we can travel to these cities and these countries very quickly, very beautifully and comfortably in luxury accommodations. And to be quite candid, it's very simple to get off and on the ship. It's very simple to get to Europe today. And it really has a lot of great influences for the traveler.
Marcy, I'll tell you the other thing. I just quoted somebody airfare, granted out of Chicago for this Douro River trip, and it was out of Chicago, $660 round trip. So not only are we having less people travel at this time, which really is wonderful to go to some of these places and have so many fewer people. You and I, Marcy, and we had a group of, Mimi and I had a group of 37 people on the Rhone River, December 2nd through the 9th. And it was unbelievable. We did the 2-night pre-package in Paris, and to go into the Louvre and be in front of the Mona Lisa and have 25 people in that room instead of 500 people in that room to see Mona Lisa was just unbelievable. Even the guide said, Mark, I want you to turn around and look at this. He said, in all my life, I've never seen this few people in this place. And same way you could get into the Eiffel Tower and there are not as many lines to the places, but you use the word cultural. That is something I'm seeing a lot of. People want this cultural feel and experience. That's becoming more and more important in a vacation. And everything I've heard about this Gems of Southeast Europe, Marcy, is it is a cultural and a scenic experience, even more so than a historic experience. And by the way, most of the history has to do with communism. There's more history than that, but the history that we'll learn about most will be when they were under the rule of communism. And wait till you see some of the pictures we're going to show. But don't you find that to be true? People are wanting to have a cultural impact on the vacations they go on?
I do, Mark, and I see it happening. I have seen it happening over the past 18 months, even more, because again, many of us had vacations planned or had our bucket list and we had ideas and we were completely shut down. And so to get out now and we want to make the best of it. Let's just say it. We want the best, the biggest value. We want to make the best of it, and we want to see everything we can possibly see. And we want to be able to immerse ourselves with the local people and the local experiences, whether it's history, archaeology, culinary, whatever it may be. We are all looking for more enrichment in our vacation choices.
I agree 100%. Obviously, we're seeing it here. So I think, trends hit the Midwest last. So there's no doubt in my mind that the cultural interest is everywhere. And this Gems of Southeast Europe will get that to everybody. And I'm so excited. So let's get into that. But before we do, I just want to say one thing that I will personally be doing more hosted groups in 2022 and 2023 than I've ever done. And the reason for that is very simple. There's still a lot of anxiety. There's still a lot of nervousness or worry, and in some cases even fear of the American public on going on an international vacation. So they're concerned about policies. They're concerned about COVID testing. They're concerned about all the what ifs. Believe me, I've got a full ship charter going in February in 3 weeks right now, and everybody's anxious, and I get that. I totally get that. I'm a little anxious. I was on the phone this morning with one of the presidents of a company talking about what to expect and what will be the process and procedures once we arrive at the airports of these places. So I totally get that. But that's part of my job, is to make sure I understand it so I can be your confidence person, your comfort person. How about that, Marcy? How about that use of the word? So, and your security blankets. I call myself a lot of times a designated worrier. Let me be the one that takes the worry from you so you don't have to. Vacation should be stress-free. And I believe in all my heart, people are going to do more and more of these hosted trips where they have a host like myself or like Mimi and I, or Marcy, when you go like you did in December, people appreciate that. They like that. It's security. And also then traveling with a group of people, and many people on this webinar right now have been with me on these hosted groups and understand the camaraderie and the friendships and the sharing of memories that you can do with people. And a lot of times people, chemistry takes place. I'm a great icebreaker, and then we let chemistry do its course, and people, and many times, make great friends on these experiences. And that's one of the things that we want to do. So we're going to talk about 2 of those hosted trips. And let me get out of this right here, and I will go on to, what's that now?
I was going to say they also create memories as they meet new people, but also on board the ship, they create new memories with our crew members. And they make new friendships that certainly last a lifetime. And I think a lot of the people that have traveled with you have mentioned that to me on numerous occasions, whether it's their cruise manager or the waiter that just held a place in their heart, or maybe a bartender or someone that was working in a room stewardess or steward. It's amazing how you build these friendships quickly, And then you never release them because they live a different culture, they live a different life, but they are so accommodating and so wonderful to make sure that we exceed the expectation, especially when the guest is on board.
You know, and exactly right. And I'll tell you, so many of you that are watching today, I have shared special memories with you, and that is just so important to me. And those are treasured memories. I mean, you know, you all remember some of those memories that we've shared together, and they are priceless to me, and I hope and pray they're priceless to you. So let's get going through this. The gems of Southeast Europe with AMA Waterways, and I love, love, love AMA Waterways. They do things so well, so professionally. They take care of everything. I don't worry because I know AMA Waterways has everything taken care of, and they will take care of you, and you all know that. And they give almost everybody the highest satisfaction on their river cruise vacation. Those of you watching that have never river cruised before, I so strongly recommend it because people love it because the small intimacy, experience, and feel. It's easy for people to get to meet each other, like Marcy just said. Food's included, great choices. You'll see a lot of that on this presentation, and it's about 95% all inclusive. So let's go through it. Marcy, you're better at at saying these Eastern European places that we'll be stopping, but the cruise itself is October 10th through the 17th. Great time to be cruising. I love to take groups in October. The weather is so good. In some cases, depending on where we are, we might get to see a little bit of the start of fall color changes, but it's just a perfect time to vacation. And there will be an option to do pre-packages both in Vienna or Budapest if you so desire before the cruise starts. The cruise does start out of Budapest. Marcy, you wanna talk about the itinerary a little bit?
Sure. Let's talk about the fact that we are going to travel from the beautiful city of Budapest, which is actually, I think, one of the most beautiful cities that Europe has to offer. And we are going to be doing it on the magnificence of the Ama Bella. And the Ama Bella is a beautiful, new, reappointed, reimagined, gorgeous ship. And there is where we will start on the beautiful Ama Bella at the Parliament in the beautiful city of Budapest. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but one side of the river is Buda and the other side is Pest. And Pest is the flat side and Buda is the more hilly side of this magnificent city. But this just gives you an idea of some of the magnificence that you will see within the architecture and the history that Budapest offers. Budapest, I think, is such a diverse, multicultural city that Europe has, but has so much old history. And Mark, I know Budapest is one of your favorite places. I love to visit the market there. I love to go on the funicular over on the Buda side and go to the top of the hills or the mountains, as we call them, to really get a beautiful view of this amazing city. And you will see everything from somewhat of almost old Roman to the beautiful architecture that you see here. So
yeah, I don't think, Marcy, if I can interject, I don't think you can go to Budapest enough times and you still enjoy it as much, if not more, than you did the first time. I have a very special place in my heart for Budapest because in 1978, Mimi and I were married that year, and we went on a ski trip into Austria primarily, and the snow was horrible. So they arranged trips, and one of the trips they arranged, we went to Budapest, and Mimi wouldn't go because it was communist controlled at that time.
yes.
And most of you watching today know me, and you know I'm a pretty well-traveled guy, and I'm not really afraid. I'm careful, I'm realistic, but I'm not afraid of traveling anywhere. This is the one time in my life I remember being afraid, and it was one overnight in Budapest. But it was communist control, and they told me to be careful, you know, all these things, watch your passport. They'll try to buy your passport on the black market, sell it on the black market, same with your blue jeans and all that other stuff. But I remember how drab Budapest was in the colors of the architecture. I remember how without hope, the look
Yes.
of people's face, and that's if they looked at you. Most people would never look at you. They just look straight down. And that's what communism, that's my recollection of people that live under the communistic rule. And it was so refreshing to me in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s when I went back to Budapest and saw colors in the building, saw people that were wearing clothes that were colorful clothes and had hope and excitement in their face, and entrepreneurialism was flourishing. So, you know, as an entrepreneur myself and a guy that just treasures freedom and all the blessings we have in this country that we take for granted of, I saw what it was like on the other side, and I'll never forget that as long as I live. So yeah, Budapest is a very special place. Hey, Marcy, wait a minute, just a second. I'm gonna go back just a second. The people that maybe have never cruised, this is the ocean, the river cruise ship, so different than ocean cruise ships. Look, there's basically the two levels, three levels actually, two levels absolutely above water level with the balconies. The balconies are there, people like that. The days that we do cruise during the day, which there will be more of those days on this this lower Danube trip than on many trips. That is just so important because we'll be up on the sun deck as we go through places. And of course, the accommodations in the top right-hand corner where you have an opportunity to get a balcony cabin where you can go outside and have your morning coffee or a nightcap or just to read a book or watch the world go by. My wife just loves that. Down on the bottom, you see the lounge and you see how nicely appointed it is and how comfortable it is. Those of you who have river cruise that are watching right now probably remember how wonderful the times we've had in some of these lounges on our river cruise trips over the past. But Marcy, let's go ahead and I'm going to have you talk about it. Do you pronounce this Mohawks?
Mohawk Hungary, which is just in my mind, south, I call it, just south of Budapest. And Mohawk, it's a very interesting place. It was actually put on the map because there was a battle that took place in August of 1526. So again, you're getting an incredible amount of history. And again, your borderline right there to where the communism really was strong and carried a big strength. The battle was between two empires, and it was between two families that really are renowned throughout Europe, and one of them was the Habsburgs. We hear about the Habsburgs all along the Danube, but it was also the Ottomans, and it ended basically the independence of Hungary at the time, and it split the country into three regions. So now that Hungary is all joined back again, and we can enjoy it as one big country again rather than three separate regions, it really makes a difference. And as you can see here, you see the different styles of architecture, you see the different meanings of the different types of buildings, the commercial buildings, as well as what you see on the left-hand side here, which is some of the older architecture that this particular region offers.
You know, and I'll tell you, I want everybody to watch and look at this picture very, very closely, because as we go through this itinerary, as I promised you, we'll get to learn about and see a lot of the recent history, we can really call it, with not only World War II, but a lot of the wars in this area since then. And as you can see, the water tower on your left is one of the national symbols of the Croatian War of Independence. And gosh, you look at those other buildings and the streets and you think, praise God, we never had to have war within our country outside of the Civil War. Isn't that something? Hey, let's go to this. I tell you, back to ancient history. I love this picture, Marcy, because it shows the lush greenness. It shows the walled fortresses right by the rivers. And of course, everything, to your point, Marcy, what you said earlier, was the rivers were the veins of Europe, right? They were the veins of how travel and commerce and people went from one place to another, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the villages and the cities were built right at the water's edge so that they could do their commerce and do their trading very simply and not have to really traverse through the mountains, because there is such a mountainous region all throughout these different countries. And, you know, also to remember, in these countries, we see a little bit of it here, but also, you know, there are quite a vast number of castles that still remain intact, that many of them are museums, but they were really built and constructed in the Baroque time. So you get, again, a little bit of history. But this city is so pretty, Mark, and you and I have talked about the walled city. Many of the cities in Europe are walled cities, and this is a beautiful picture that shows you this wall on the top right-hand corner built the entire space of this city for protection. It amazes me every time I go into a city. These walls are usually, you know, up to 2 feet thick, so that they could literally protect their cities and villages during the wartime. And this is a beautiful little city that I'm sure experienced some destruction in its time, but has been preserved over the many years, and the wall was saved. So really has a lot of character.
Okay, so now in 3 slides, we've gone to Hungary, to Croatia, and now to Serbia. And
Yes,
I love the choice of these pictures right here, because you see all sorts of different architecture. You see both old and new, and you see the center square. Whenever I see the statues like that I see in the town centers, I know that's a historical person that made a difference in that area. And that's the kind of thing that excites me. Do you know anything else about, do we pronounce that Novi Sad?
Novi Sad. Just that this particular area of Serbia, as we travel through Serbia, you're going to experience fortresses that were built in the 14th century that are still intact today and very well taken care of, which oftentimes in a war zone, as you say, you don't have that. They have really protected their landmarks and their ancestry and their history in these different countries. So as you mentioned, the city square, I love the city square, the city plots, market plots, whatever we want to call it, because that certainly is an area where they gather, but it's also an area where they take very good care of all of their old architecture. And when they go in to refurbish architecture in these countries, they must refurbish it to the way it originally was. So they have to face it with everything that it had originally. So when you're looking at some of these buildings and visiting some of these different places, you are looking at architecture many times that was built in the 14th, 15th centuries. So it's just amazing to me. So I wish we could adopt some of their wonderful traits and habits and traditions about preserving our old monuments and so forth here in our country like they do.
I agree. And yeah, I'm a big tennis player, and Novak Djokovic is from Serbia. So I think that the #1 tennis player in the world, and I think who just got banned, by the way, and kicked out of the Australian Open for not being vaccinated. And so anyway, I look forward to going to all these new countries. By the way, I'm a country counter. I'm at 103 countries. This will get me to, like, Serbia will be actually Jordan will be my 104th. This will be, no, in August, I'm going on that Royal the Royal Family Regent 7 Seas. I'll have 2 new countries there, so 106. Serbia will be my 107th country, which I'm kind of excited about. So Marcy, I'll tell you what, I bet everybody watching today knows the name Tito. And in Belgrade, which I've got to learn the word Belgrade. Obviously, it's a name used in a lot of cities across the world. Most of us think maybe in Ireland, but it's everywhere. So Belgrade, Serbia, I want to find out all about this. But Tito, of course, was the communistic ruler, and we get to go to his museum. And by the way, you may not have any interest in the communistic history of this area, and you'll have so many choices to choose from. Some being culinary, some being wine tasting. So there's going to be, again, like on every river cruise, 6 to 8 different options on every river cruise of things to do. So you don't have to go to these if you want. Me personally, this truly interests me. But Marcy, anything else you know about Belgrade?
I do. This is obviously the capital city of Serbia, but it's also known as the city that never sleeps. So, you know, way back in the day, Mark, as we talked about, the buildings were done in the very gray tones and very drab. There was no color. And you can look right here and see all the beautiful color that they have added. To me, this picture on the right-hand side means happiness. It means freedom and happiness. And I love it because one of the reasons Belgrade is called the city that never sleeps is because down here along the water's edge, where you see these boats and you see some of the equipment that they're utilizing. In this area on the river, they actually have a lot of the boats that they have turned into cafes and clubs. And so you can go down there after dinner, you can enjoy a coffee, a nice glass of wine, but the action never stops in Belgrade. They continue to go on, and I just think it's just a happy, beautiful picture that says we now have achieved freedom.
Well, I agree too, and you are so right. Color, God, I've never associated with what you just said. It makes sense to me. Color is the color is freedom. I just love that. So, hey, I got to tell you, of all things on this trip that I think could be, well, maybe one of the most memorable is when we go through the Iron Gates and see the rock statue of King Decibel. He was one of the greatest kings of Dacia when this area was called Dacia, and we'll learn more about him. But this is the most photographed picture. This was photographed thing on our entire river cruise ship, but you can imagine this, the Mount Rushmore of that area, right? But the Iron Gates, this is so cool. Marcy, talk to us a little bit about this scene that we're seeing right here in the Iron Gates specifically.
Okay, so the Iron Gates, you know, for many years when I was much younger, I used to think the Iron Gates must have been this big gate across that you had to pay your taxes or you weren't going to get there, right? That would close. But quite the opposite. There is no gate at the Iron Gates. This is actually a part in the river where the current is quite heavy. And the reason they called it the Iron Gates is because no one could succeed in crossing the river successfully, because of the current and because of the way the waters moved in this area. So the Iron Gates just literally meant this is closed off because nobody can get here from over there across the river. So it's got an amazing amount of wonderful history.
You heard me talking earlier about the fact that we will get to be cruising a little more during the daytime on this itinerary, which personally I just love. That is such a relaxing, peaceful, wonderful time to be up on the sun deck. The weather should be plenty good enough to be on the sun deck. And there'll be things like this day that we will get to see such incredible history. But if you've noticed, look at the difference in the rock and in the scenery and in the topography from this picture than you saw just a couple pictures before. So now we are getting into much more mountainous territory that I think is great. And I don't know whether I'm going to put Forrest or Gerald in charge of learning how to pronounce all these, like the Babaqui rocks, all these words, but we'll get somebody to help us with the pronunciation of the places where we go. Look at this beautiful, can you just imagine being on the top deck as we slowly cruise down through this area in Serbia? And Marcy, what do you know about this area?
I just know that it's magnificent. Look at these pictures. Obviously, you are seeing an amazing amount of rock formation through here, but also the river is quite narrow in this area. So you really get the up close and personal viewing of the region. But also you see some lush, but not quite as lush as you do as this particular part of the Danube is a little bit more rocky, if you will, than the upper Danube. So you don't have quite as much growth as you do, like a forest type growth as you do, but look at the view. I think it is absolute magnificence of how this was formed and actually what you get to experience as we travel, and we'll be traveling during the day. So you get to see all of this up close and personal. I can see myself on a river ship right there in the middle of that water and just doing the ooh and the ah.
One of the things AMA Waterways does so well is, remember, as we cruise down these rivers during the daytime, you can take your audio box from your room and the cruise director will be giving you the narration of the history and the importance of this area as we cruise by. Or you don't have to do that at all. So funny. I'm listening to the history as we go down here. Mimi is reading her book, so we're both happy, right? Hey, I love to go from that last picture to this picture. Marcy, does this just look like a picture of not only history, but fun, not only ancient history, but modern history? Talk to us about this and look at the color in this picture. I love this picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. We go right back to the color of freedom and happiness in this particular area. This is the Baba Vida fortress in Bulgaria. As you see the fortress up on the top of the hill. And as you're looking through this city, I mean, I love the city square, the market plots that you see right down below there. But also, I love the fact, look how the lighting is placed on that fortress. Oh my gosh, this is a medieval fortress that has 9 towers. So again, looking in every direction for protection. So the fortress has its wall, and as a fortress was built so that it could protect the people of the village as it sits up on top of that hill or that little mountain that we have there. But I think this is wonderful. You can see all the different types of architecture. This again is a very multicultural area. People coming from all the countries around, coming from all over the world to visit because of the beauty that this has to offer.
Everything I understand too is the people in Eastern Europe are very, very friendly to tourists and especially to Western tourists. They're just very inviting and welcoming people. So John and Sue and Neil and Nancy, I see the little rooftop lounge over there on the right hand. I think we should go there for a glass of wine or a cappuccino and kind of solve some problems of the world. I love the picture that we got here. Look at this picture, talking about using Mother Nature. And by the way, now we're in another country, Bulgaria. I'm up to 108 countries. Yep. Bulgaria. Look at this picture, how they use this man-made rock formations to put a fortress into. I love this picture from my perspective with the history of fortresses and castles and protection. I think this is just a great picture.
It is. They actually used Mother Nature to create the fortress itself. So there was no destruction of land. There was no harvesting of rock. This back up, as you see at the very top, the doorway, once you walk through that doorway, you're actually in the fortress. And this is the way that they protected themselves, along with the big wall that you see built down below here to also provide the entrance to the fortress. But it's magnificent.
I love that picture. I'll tell you. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of everything. I think it'll be at a much slower pace than what we experience on a lot of the river cruises. And I think it's going to be a very, I call it, I think this will exceed our expectations because our expectations are much lower because we don't really know about this part of the world. I love this picture with this, looks like a Roman gate right in the middle of the road. And at one time it probably was built like that to take us into now a little bit more modern city here in Rus, Bulgaria. And Marcy, is this where we get off? Is that correct?
Yes. I just have to make sure of that, but yes, I believe that is where we disembark. No, we go to Giurgiu. Oh, we go right down the road to Giurgiu, right down the dock. Sorry. Yeah. So this is right near Giurgiu. But this is quite a beautiful and interesting city. This city really has a lot of ancient Greek and Roman influence. That of course came from many years ago. The archaeology in this area actually confirms that it was inhabited 5000 BC. So talk about seeing some additional history that you really would not see along the Danube in many of the other areas. That's going to be it. In the first century, actually, the Romans came in and established a military camp here. And this is the way that they transported their soldiers to protect their countries. So that's really where Rus got on the map, if you will, or, you know, the inhabitants that were there 5000 BC. I can't even imagine. But this city was established in 681 AD. So the age of this city is just incredible to me. Incredible. And you see beautiful homes, and then you see a little bit of modern architecture, but you really see just very simple, maybe is a word I want to use, simplistic maybe architecture, because again, you were in an area that was under communist rule for so very long.
Also looks like a very, very scenic area too. Marcy, and I'll tell you what, when we end up there or right next to Rus, we then have the opportunity to go to do a post land package into Transylvania. Transylvania is best known as the place where Dracula was. And again, it was that butler on that Alma Magna that was telling me he's from this area. And he was so proud. And he said, Mark, you must go there. You have to go there. It's the most beautiful, most scenic, most mountainous place in all of Eastern Europe. And you're going to love the castle that they call Dracula's Castle. They're not fond, the Eastern Europeans, the Romanians especially, are not fond of calling it Dracula's Castle. That's something that the Western world uses, but it's Brand Castle. And again, Marcy, the history of this castle and the beauty of the area around it, I just think this is going to be one of the highlights of the trip right here on the 4-day post extension package. Comments?
You know, I just want to say and feel comfortable in knowing that you will get to enter the castle and leave the castle all in one piece. Dracula is gone.
Yeah, if you paid round trip, I promise to get you back. Okay. If you
it is one of
be
the
careful.
most beautiful fixtures. I mean, look at it sitting amongst the mountainside there.
I agree. I just this is going to be so exciting. We spend 2 nights up in this area and 2 nights in Bucharest before we leave. And then I want everybody to see, this is the probably Marcy, did you say this was the most famous? Obviously, in my opinion, it's the most beautiful color-wise and architect as any castle I've seen.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the most famous castles all throughout Europe. And you can see the half-timbered buildings. It's got a little bit of everything. You have a little bit of Roman influence there. You have a little bit almost of German influence with the half-timbered looking towers. But very, very beautiful. And you see that it also sits and is surrounded by this beautiful old wall that was built to keep it up in a higher level, or so that they could look around to be sure that they could protect their community.
Well, and I tell you, you've seen a lot of pictures, and I think pictures tell 1,000 words. But again, this is the type of vacation that I think is going to be so not only appreciated, but enjoyable. And as I said earlier, I think our expectations are going to be exceeded by an amazing amount. I love the fact that it's going to be a little slower pace. I have missed seeing so many of you over the last 2 years and sharing memories on trips like this. And I think this will be a slow enough pace. We will all get to spend a lot of time together, and I'm just thrilled. So again, this is October 10th through the 17th. Mimi and I are planning to go into Budapest 1 night early right now. There is a 2-night pre-package from AMA in Vienna, if you'd like to go to Vienna before the cruise starts, and that will also include transportation to Budapest to begin the cruise. Then when this ends on the 17th of October, you have a choice of flying out of Bucharest back home or anywhere else you'd like to, or you can stay with us for that 4-night Transylvania. They call it Transylvania package, but it's the 2 nights in Transylvania and then 2 nights in and around the Bucharest area, which I think will be an incredible post package. And then, gosh, I'd just say, if you're interested in this, give us a call. We've got plenty of space left. We've got about maybe 40% of our group allotment that Mimi and I have done what's called a partial charter. So we have special rates for you based on what the anybody else could buy it for. But if you go with us on this hosted trip, you'll get a break in price. The post package, the pre-package is not included, so you can do that if you want to, and it's very reasonable. But give us a call here at Cruise Holidays at 816-741-7417. Call. Most of you have travel advisors, vacation advisors, and if you want to talk to me, I'll be happy to do so. But if you want to book this or find out more or add a pre or a post package, you most certainly can do it. And Marcy, I'm so excited about this. The Eastern European Lower Danube, I think, is going to be a spectacular experience. And then, Marcy, you know, if people want to do what I'm going to do, like we talked about earlier, so many people are wanting to do these back-to-back trips right now. So when we end in Bucharest here on the 21st of October, I'm going to fly directly to Lisbon, and we're going to start a Douro River cruise in to see Portugal and Spain. And Marcy, have you done the Douro River yourself? I know I have. I just didn't know whether you had or not.
I've been to the Douro region, but not done it by river. So, and it's
Oh,
been
you've
quite
got to,
some
Marcy.
time.
Maybe you should come with us on this
I think I
October
probably
25th
should.
through November 1st. I want to tell you, so everybody knows this. So this is going to be back to back. You know, Europe is really a small continent, and the countries are kind of like our states. So it doesn't take very long at all to get from Bucharest to Lisbon. And this is what I'm going to do. We're going to spend 3 nights pre-package in Lisbon. If you want, that's optional. And the river cruise will start on October 25th in Porto, Portugal. And then it'll be 7 nights ending at the far eastern side of Portugal. And then we will go into Madrid, Spain to conclude our trip. Now, for those of you that are wondering what's Park University got to do with this, I was on the board of Park University for 10 years. And one of the things I'm most proudest of, Mimi and I have underwritten the baseball field at Park University that they honored us with the name Comfort Field. And there's been, and then Mimi and I scholarship a baseball player there every year, sometimes 2. And I'm very much so proud of Park University and what Park does in this community and in the entire country. So we're actually going to also give a portion of the proceeds back to Park University as a donation. But I've invited the president of Park University, Shane Smead, and his wife to go with us. Shane was the interim vice president, and literally at the first of the year, he just got named, and I agree 100% with him as the full-time president of Park University. And if you don't know anything about Park University, drive by there right on the Missouri River, and it'll remind you of this trip, and see the beautiful buildings that were copied after some European buildings that make up the campus there in Parkville, Missouri. On the bottom right-hand corner, a good friend of mine, a wonderful, phenomenal business lady and philanthropic lady and husband, Jeanette Pringer, and her husband, Kevin, they live at Weatherby Lake where I live, and you have to hear this story. I found out that Jeanette was from Portugal. She was born in Portugal. Her parents, obviously, are both Portuguese. And she did higher education both in Spain and then at Park University. And they live at Weatherby Lake now. So literally we met in the middle of Weatherby Lake on our pontoon boats. This might have been 2.5, 3 years ago. And we talked about taking people back to her home country, homeland, Portugal. Now, I talked to you on the lower Danube a minute ago, and I used these words. I said, I've been on a lot of trips that have exceeded my expectations, but I can tell you, in my top 3 trips based on exceeding my expectation of what we were going to get, the Douro River is in my top 3 without a shadow of a doubt. Might be my top 1, because I bet you're like me. I bet you've heard of Portugal, but I bet outside of Lisbon, you don't know, and port wine, you don't know anything about Portugal. I didn't know anything about Portugal. 4.5, maybe 5 years ago, I took the most well-traveled group of people I've ever traveled with to go with me to Portugal on AMA waterways. And I want to tell you, at the end of the trip, again, the exceeding of expectations was greater on this experience, not just for me, but for every one of the 38, 39 people I had on that trip. Now, the other thing is this is a more narrow, more shallow river, so the cruise ship that we'll be going on will be a little bit smaller than the ones on the Danube or the Rhine. And I think it's a good thing. I think in this day and age, smaller is better. Now, that's the positive. Here's the other thing I want you to hear about this. This is really important. If this is of interest to you, I need to ask you to make your decisions pretty doggone quick by the end of January to deposit. Reason why, this ship is already sold out. And the Douro River, along with the Nile River, are the 2 fastest selling and the most popular rivers AMA Waterways has. And Marcy will tell you about that in a second. But the reality is, we have these special rates, and as of February 1st, they're gone. And as soon as we let the cabins go, and we've got 16 cabins still available on this. We've got like 18 or 20 people signed up already. We just introduced this the 1st of January. But AMA could not give us very long to sell this because of how popular this the Douro River is. And candidly, they're going to make a whole lot more money selling it to somebody else based on the higher prices they can get than with me, for you, with our partial charter rates. So, Marcy, you know that the Douro River has been incredibly popular for you all, hasn't it?
Oh my goodness, Mark. You know, for many years, we just had one ship on the Douro, which was the beautiful Vida. And I have to tell you, you know, you used to have to book, and you still do today, a year and a half, 2 years out, and sometimes it's still already completely full. Well, we placed a second ship on this river 2 years ago, and I thought, hallelujah, we're going to have some extra space, because I can never seem to get space on this itinerary. And I have to tell you, it has gone just as fast as the first ship did. So we have added 2 ships, but let me tell you, this and the Nile, as you mentioned, sell out first thing. And so it is of the utmost importance that if people are interested, please, please, please get it booked, because when that space goes away at the end of January, there will be no more. We have people on a waiting list that are ready to go, that are, you know, that will pay the different pricing for it. So very important, and a very, you know, very beautiful. And one thing maybe people don't know is 2,000 years ago, this area was established by the eruption of a volcano. So it is a very mineral-driven content in the soils, but it's also very steep and very, very picturesque from the river itself. So a very, very beautiful area with lots of different things to offer, everything from cork to fabulous port wines, to jewelry, to, I mean, there's just not, it is just amazing. And the beauty of it is just breathtaking.
Well, and for those of you that are watching today that have never been on a river cruise, one reason why I like to use AMA Waterways for most of my hosted groups are not only the final goal, which is your satisfaction, and value for the dollar, but also the appointments of the ship, the staff. I tell you what, they do the best job of hiring and training their staff, and everybody always just tells us that the staff is so good. They have a cruise manager that will meet you, like in our case here in this, if you go into Lisbon and stay at the hotel that AMA is putting us up at the 3-day pre-package, the cruise manager that will be with us on the ship will be at that hotel and will help us navigate through everything we need to know there in Lisbon, with the included tours of the city tour of Lisbon, the city tour in Sinatra, and or Sintra, excuse me, I'm thinking Frank Sinatra. And then maybe one of the things I'm proudest of, because I talked to the owners of AMA Waterways after we did our first river cruise, and they did not offer a tour to Tomar, T-O-M-A-R. Tomar is one of the most incredible fortresses / castles / cathedrals. That was the headquarters for the Knights Templar back in the, I think, whatever it might be, 15th century, if I remember right. That blew me away. It was just unbelievable. And I got a hold of the owners, Rudy Schreiner and Christine Karst, and I said, you guys need to include, it's not that far out of the way, to go to Tomar and have that as part of the tour when you're leaving Lisbon, heading up north to Porto. And they've added that to this trip, I think per my request, and it's going to be a tremendous addition for you. You will love it. In fact, I was telling Jeanette Pringer, who's from Portugal, remember, and she had never been to Tomar, and I said, oh, Jeanette, you're just going to be so proud of your country, and you're going to be so proud of the things that you've not seen in your own country, kind of like us in our country. There's so much in other countries too. Let's go through this. Lisbon is on the bottom, so it's 3 hours worth of motor coach, or a little less than that if you take the train. But we're going to go through Tomar and take motor coaches for most of us anyway, and get up to Porto. And then, Marcy, do you want to talk about the itinerary? I know we can go through it day by day.
Well, we can. Porto is a well, it's known as the city of bridges, absolutely. Again, the port wine tasting, but you've got the hiking and the biking. You'll have a variety of different tours that you can participate in. And on the way, you said, you did mention we will be doing the motor coach so that we can stop all along the way from Lisbon as we arrive into Porto. And you know, Porto's interesting. It has 6 bridges that connect the city to the neighborhoods. So it is truly not just a mountainous region, but it has the waterway as well as it's a coastal city. So
Yeah, by the way, my gosh, I had a chance to go to a couple of the Graham's Distillery and another distillery that were some of the biggest distilleries and warehouses that I have ever seen. And again, some of the most incredible vineyards. Wait till you see the pictures we've got of the vineyards of this whole area of Portugal. Wine is such a gigantic part of the GNP of Portugal, and they've had it for what, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, I don't know. So you'll see more beautiful scenery, but on the side of on the hills on both sides of the river, they'll be terraced all the way up, and you'll see a lot of this. Now I'll tell you, so this is the itinerary, and I bet you've not heard of any. Maybe you've heard of Porto, but on the other towns, I bet you've not heard of. So again, this is one of the reasons why your expectations will be exceeded so well when you don't know anything about these things. By the way, I had to, those of you are probably wondering what a quinta is, Quinta. Well, that is a farmhouse or a villa area in a rural area. Usually it's got something to do with wine, and you'll see some of these. So we'll get to see some of these old palaces. And remember, you all, Portugal controlled the world for over 200 years. We've all heard about the Portuguese sailors, but the history in Portugal is just amazing. But so is the culture, and so is the scenery. This maybe, there's a whole bunch of things that was so impressive, but any of you who are Catholic primarily maybe have heard of Ragu and the Holy Staircase. There's over 700 steps there, and it is absolutely incredible. And there's pilgrimages every year to this place where they go up or down these 700 steps on their knees, hands and knees. You're welcome to do that, but if you do that, bring some knee pads, okay? And you need longer time than we probably have. We can pick you up for the next port. But this is so historic, and this cathedral was just beyond spectacular. Okay, here's what I was talking about with the Terrace Vineyards. And I mean, literally, you're going to see this through the entire country of Portugal. I think it's just breathtaking, and I think it is absolutely beautiful. Above the terrace of the vineyards, you'll see some olive trees up there too. So wine and olive oil is a huge deal. I love this picture too from the air, assumed from the air, maybe top of the mountains. You can see all the vineyards and how windy and beautiful the river is. Oh, just gorgeous, just gorgeous. Now, arguably, in a lot of places in the world talk about their culinary and their hospitality, but I don't think Portugal takes a backseat to anybody, and how they do their family styled lunches at the quintas that we'll get to experience, the quality of wines that we'll have along the way. Again, I think you will be so incredibly impressed. And the one thing I can tell you about AMA Waterways, they know the type of tours that Americans like the best. And again, you'll have 6 to 8 tours with almost every stop that you go to. And even if you don't like wine or don't drink at all, Mimi's in the non-alcohol diet that she does about once a year, and fine, you're going to enjoy this equally as well. Okay, but we've got lunch at 2 local quintas. You will not leave hungry.
No, you know, one thing I want to say about this too is the really fun part of this river is the quintas, visiting the different quintas, and not just, you're not just experiencing the ship when you're looking at your dining, which many of our ships offer different dining options on shore, but this particular region offers it a little bit more because there is such amazing topography and these little quintas all along the way that really can host a small number of people, and we use different varietals of them. So it's, yeah.
You know, this is really exciting because on the first tour we did, we just went to the big vineyards, the big wineries, and they were so unbelievably impressive. Truly, they were. This time we will do that. We'll go to some of the most incredible vineyards and their operations, but the outside wine tastings, the outside lunches at the quintas, I think will be one of the highlights of this trip. There is no doubt about it. Just look at this. Doesn't it make? I haven't had lunch yet. I'm like very much to sit down right there and have a good glass of wine and the food that we just saw. and you'll get to see scenery like this again all over. And it's just so peaceful and so relaxing. Aren't these great pictures? And again, you'll learn all about Porto everywhere. They're so proud of their Porto, of course, but they have everything else that you could imagine. By the way, almost all of you know the name Matus. Matus is from Portugal, and they have one of the most incredible vineyards, and they call them palaces over there, but one of the most incredible palaces you'll ever see. Fabulous place. Okay, I picked this picture to show because we can all think of Tuscany in our mind, and we can think of the villages that are on top of the mountains or the hills, and this is the same way in Portugal that we'll get to see this in this Castelo Rodrigo in Portugal. Marcy, I don't know if you know anything about this stop.
I don't know a lot about Castello. Unfortunately, I have not been there, but just by looking at this picture, it looks like an amazing place. And this small little village built right on the top of that mountain and not really to exceed beyond that. It looks as though it's quite consolidated and not really heavily populated.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, this little village is 800 to 1,000 years old. You can see the wall, the gated walls that are starting to fall down and everything. You can see the fortress on the top that looks like maybe it's seen better days. There's a cathedral there, but little places like this I just think are great. My guess is we'll probably have a wine tasting up there too. But what a great experience! What a great experience! And then the one thing we didn't talk about on the Lower Danube that I want to talk about here, because it is so scenic and it is so hilly, that AMA always offers fabulous walking tours and hikes, bikes on board their ships. But boy, if you haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, I might not recommend that. If you haven't hiked in mountainous regions, you know, the cruise manager will talk to you about the difficulty of the hikes or the difficulty of the bikes, and they'll go through all that. Otherwise, you'll have the motor coaches that will take us to the places that we'll see. If it's close enough to where the ship's dock, we'll do walking there. But in most cases, they will be motor coaches. Not all of them, but most cases. Okay, a lot of people are interested in that Lisbon Pre-Package. The one thing I will tell you also is our dollar is real strong right now in both Portugal and Spain. So the 3-night pre-package in Lisbon at a 4.5 to 5-star hotel, we're not sure which one it is right now, but in downtown Old City, Lisbon, where it's walking distance about everything, including the 3 tours, the city tour of Lisbon, the tour over to Sintra. Sintra is just fabulous, spectacular. And I told you about the tour to Tomar on the way to Porto. $900 a person is real reasonable, honestly, for that quality of hotel in Europe with transfers included. And then also, when we get done with this trip, remember, Jeanette specifically picked this itinerary because it traverses across the width of Portugal. We end up at the Portugal-Spain border, and then the tour takes us to Madrid, going through Salamanca and a couple other beautiful stops on the way to Madrid. Now you can fly home from Madrid, and you will need to spend one night there just because of airline connections, or you can spend all 3 nights with us, which I'm sure going to do. I'm going to do both the Lisbon Pre and the Madrid post. That will also be $900 per person for a double. And again, the history, the tours, you'll get to see this very, very historic area. Now, a lot of people might say, hey, I've got points. Can I use points? Sure, you can for your air. We'll help you with your air if you need it. We'll help you with travel insurance options. And I think that's so very important. We're recommending that cancel for any reason for almost everybody right now. We also are suggesting, well, when the time comes, we'll have a document get together and we'll talk about policies and what you'll need. Listen, by late October of next year, that could be totally, totally different than what it is right now. And frankly, I think it will be as far as COVID policies and policies in the world. You know, I told you earlier, Great Britain has already dropped a lot of their COVID restrictions as of this morning. Mexico, same thing, dropped all COVID responsibilities last week. We're going to see more and more countries, especially if you're vaccinated, Who knows? Maybe they'll require boosters in the future. We don't know that yet. Nobody has of the countries where we go to. But the one thing I can tell you, AMA requires everybody to be vaccinated, and their crew is all vaccinated, and the tour guides that take you on tours are all vaccinated. So I don't think you have to worry about that. But all the questions that you have, we can answer for you. But if this is of interest to you, this specifically, even more than the Gems of Southeast Europe that I talked about first, we're going to do the back-to-back Gems of Southeast Europe, Budapest to Bucharest, October 10th through the 17th, 4 nights in Transylvania after that. Then we'll fly, if you want to do them back-to-back, we'll fly from Bucharest to Lisbon. You don't have to do that. But if you just want to do the Douro River, you can do it. But the Douro River, we need your deposit on by January 31st, okay, just the deposit. And that's really important because on February 1st, I've already asked, they will not give us any more extensions because this ship is already sold out and they want our cabins back. And I've got 16 cabins, 8 category A's and 8 category B's left on this Douro River. And then you just need to tell us, and you can make your mind up later if you want the Lisbon package or the Madrid package, or if you want to do the pre-package too, or the pre-cruise on the Gems of Southeast Europe. Or maybe you want to do something different. Like, for example, Jeanette is going to go in early on this one. She's not going to go on the Gems of Southeast Europe on the lower Danube, but she is going to go into the Algarve region. She's been there. She loves that. I've heard all about it. The Algarve region of Portugal on the southernmost tip of Portugal is apparently a world-class place to go and golf or vacation with beach. The beaches are spectacular there. Marcy, have you heard about the Algarve region of Portugal?
I have beautiful, beautiful beaches on the Atlantic. One of the highlights of southern Portugal, or the furthest southern point in Portugal. I've heard a lot about it, a lot. But the city of Lisbon, I think, is beautiful. It's known as the city of hills. And way back in time, the Romans are the one that named it because it had some resemblance of Rome. So you've got really a lot of different culture here again, multitudes of culture in the city. And the seafood, oh my goodness, oh, the fresh seafood, the culinary experience along with the fantastic wines again, I think is outstanding.
Well, and everything is so inexpensive there.
Yes.
The one thing I was going to say too, I did not realize till I was there, Lisbon is actually on the river, if I'm not mistaken, 20 miles in, or 12 to 20 miles in from the ocean. And so their fortress and headquarters right on the ocean up on the top of a cliff was in Sintra. And so we will go and explore Sintra and see it. And what a quaint little fabulous place with this big fortress area up on top of the hill and the cathedrals and everything. And that was also the summer residences of the leaders of the kings of Portugal and queens. They would go there because the breeze off the ocean and being up higher would keep them cooler in that area. And that's the one thing I was going to say to you. This is a perfect time to be in Portugal. Now, remember, it's one of the most southernmost countries of all of Europe, and it's also the closest to the United States, so our flight home will be a lot shorter. But the weather is going to be perfect in Portugal, just perfect. And by the way, this is also at harvest time, so the energy that will be going on in Portugal there through the harvest will be so exciting. The first time we went in April, and it was spectacular. I mean, just spectacular, like I told you before. But we all said the same thing. How much fun would it be to be in mid to late October when the harvest is going on and the energy of all the of everything that goes on during the harvest will be there. Now, Jeanette and I will have some surprises for you, and they'll probably be in the wine tasting type of things, and all of that is to be worked out. But surprises are always good. And I just want to invite you on this Douro River cruise or on the Gems of Southeast Europe. Marcy, the one thing I forgot to have you do a little bit more, would you talk about the Vida and the ship that we're on? Because it is a smaller ship than are on a lot of the rivers, right?
Right. The ship maximum capacity is 100 guests, and which is a little bit smaller than our other European destinations, which are right at about 140 or 160. So again, a more intimate experience, a magnificent ship, a beautiful ship. The ship has been reimagined every time it needed to be, which wasn't very often because it was built beautifully. Very well-appointed staterooms. You have all the choices that you have on the Europe ships. If you're someone who's already traveled with us, you've got chef's table, and you've got the beautiful social hour every day, and you've got the beautiful wines and champagnes in the morning, and wines and beers in the afternoons and evening hours. You have the different choices in excursions, so you've got the up to 6 excursions to be able to choose from each day in this entire area. You've got the wellness center. I don't think you're going to need it. I think you're going to get plenty of exercise, but if structured wellness is part of your program, then we have that to be able to offer as well. It is a magnificent area and just a spectacular country, Portugal and Spain, and this part of Spain. So yes, we have, the ship is magnificent, but yeah, maximum capacity 100.
Yeah, and I think that's very, very important, everybody. And by the way, you don't have to have anything to do with Park University to go on this. I've got a lot of friends and clients that are going on this that have nothing to do with Park University, but I also think it'll be fun for you to get to know from Shane Smead a little bit about Park University, because I'll bet you, I mean, I live here right next to Parkville, and I didn't know very much about Park University till I got involved from Dr. Don Brecken, one of our very best clients, who was the president of Park University. And when I got involved with Park University, gosh, they're one of the largest educators to the military online. They were ahead of every university in this country of online education to the military 25, 30 years ago. It's just amazing. They've got 10 times more 20 times more students that go to Park University away from Parkville than they do in their main campus here in Parkville, because most of those are active military or retired military. Marcy, I'll tell you what, we started talking about the river cruise experience in the very beginning. Let's review that one more time because we've got time. Satisfaction wise, I want everybody to hear this. All the river cruise lines get me the statistics on their customer satisfaction ratings, and the average rating for all river cruise lines is right at 97% satisfaction. That's almost perfect. That's better than Patrick Mahomes' quarterback ratings based on perfection. So 97%. AMA Waterways, however, is right at 98%. They actually lead all river cruises in guest satisfaction. And I'll bet all of you that are on today that have been on an AMA Waterways cruise are shaking your head. Yes, you understand that they do such a great job in making you feel welcome, in making sure you know everything that's going on, and just make you feel good about your vacation experience. And I call it value for the dollar. What Mimi and I want, and our staff wants more than anything, is that when you get back from a vacation, your expectations have been exceeded. You feel the value for your vacation, both of dollars invested and time invested, has been well worth it. And that's what we find almost everybody that goes on a river cruise, especially an AMA Waterways river cruise, comes away with. And Marcy, you know, everybody loves the river cruise experience because it's so intimate, such a small number of people, so many options culinary. You know, you've got both the local foods that you can have, the local wines, the local beers, or you can have the good old meat and potatoes, or chicken and whatever you want, salmon, whatever you want at any time, burgers or whatever you want. The options are so great. The service, though, Marcy, don't you think the service is what maybe impresses people the most?
I do, Mark. It goes back to when we first started this afternoon, saying, you know, our crew members help build lifelong memories. And they truly, being a family-owned company and organization, our ultimate goal is, number one, to provide the 5-star plus level of experience, culinary, but most of all, service. And I have to tell you, I could sit and talk about our crew members all day long. It's the little things that are continual and that they continuously do and offer that make the difference. And it might be from just that greeting in the morning with a big smile at the end of the hallway to the gentleman who's serving you your breakfast and remembers every single day that you would like to have hot tea, not coffee, you prefer honey, whatever it may be. It's all the detail. And it's the fact that these people, this is their home. The ship is their home. AMA is our family. And they want you to feel like a part of our family while you're on board. So it's not as though they feel they ever have to go above and beyond, but they do it because from the heart, that's who they are. And they're very, very proud of what we have as a company. And we look, all of us are, and we look very, very hard for that caliber of employee to maintain our 5-star level of service, experience overall. So I will tell you, yes, you build lifelong friends, not just the memory, but lifelong friends as well.
Marcy, every time that Rhone River cruise we did December 2nd through the 9th, it was so interesting to watch people that were going with us. They were so anxious and so nervous before they left. Mm-hmm. And the minute they got on board that ship, honest to goodness, me included, the anxiety level went away and vacation mode set in. And I'll bet most of you, that sounds very good too right now. And I can promise you the exact same thing will happen for you. And I can promise you you'll love this experience. Hey, by the way, I would be remiss before we end this today to say also, we talked about this earlier, and if you want to find the webinar that we did on the Seine River, I'm doing the Seine River, hosting it with AMA Waterways in June, on June 16th, just 2 weeks after I believe it's 78th anniversary of D-Day, this coming June. So if you're interested maybe in that, if you're interested in spending your kids' inheritance big time in 2022, making up for what you didn't get in 2021 or 2020, we can help you with a lot of these options. So I'm hosting that wonderful AMA Waterways River Cruise, round trip Paris up to Normandy, spending the whole day there, just 2 weeks after D-Day. It'll be so exciting. Going to Giverny, which is Monet's homes. You'll see the gardens, you'll see the lily pond, you'll see all the things that he made famous through his paintings, and to the other places along the way that you maybe have never heard of. Ragu, where Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, by the way. That's a lot of history and a cool town. The illumination thing they have there is special, and I can promise you this, you deserve a great vacation. You truly do. You've heard me say this before, but you deserve it now more than ever before. And I'm anxious to share these memories with you guys again. This will be a trip of a lifetime. If you want to go on the pre-cruise to this and do 2 back-to-back, if you tuned in late, I'm hosting along with my wife, Mimi, the Gems of Southeast Europe, October 10th through the 17th, Budapest to Bucharest. I'm spending 4 nights in Transylvania with the people that want to spend 4 extra nights seeing Dracula's castle and that whole beautiful Romanian mountainous area. Then we're flying to Bucharest to this trip right here, the Douro River trip. We'll fly from Bucharest to Lisbon. And this, again, will start on October 22nd. The river cruise starts on October 25th, goes to November 1st. We will tour from Salamanca to Madrid. And if you so desire, you can do the post package in Madrid afterwards, or anything else you'd like to do. But we want to earn your business. We're back. We're strong as can be. By the way, AMA Waterways is strong as could be financially. And that's one of the things that I think is really important about what's going on right now. Mimi and I are financially sound. We are actually hiring more employees. We've hired 2 employees in the last 2 months because our business has just been so good. Yes, the ocean cruise industry part of it has been on pause, let's call that. That's so sad for that segment of the industry. But the river cruise industry is getting so much extra business, unfortunately, from the ocean cruise customers and from their past river cruise customers. So these river cruises really are filling up very, very, very fast, as are all-inclusive vacations at this point. We want to earn your business, and we want you to know we're financially strong, and AMA Waterways is financially strong. That's really, really important. We just heard yesterday that the parent company of Crystal Cruises has ceased operations, which is a big, big deal. So Mimi and I keep a close eye with our parent company called Travel Leaders, the largest travel consortium in the world. Before the pandemic, $23 billion. So we know through the insurance companies and through a lot of other things what the financial status is of the companies, and we only will do business with people that are financially solvent. And again, there's going to be a lot less people like Mimi and I in Cruise Holidays of Kansas City and Comfort Tours that have the firsthand experience and the knowledge that you need to navigate during these challenging times like we have right now with changing policies. And by the way, I think there'll be a lot of changing policies in the very near future, and for the better. I think we are literally, the light is at the end of the tunnel. I think we'll see something like in March or April, is everything I'm hearing. This pandemic will be officially called an endemic, maybe a little longer than that, who knows? But that is a good sign for all of us. If you're vaccinated, you'll be able to go on these type cruises and experiences and enjoy it completely. So, okay, Marcy, any last words of wisdom?
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone, we actually start our operation the third week of March, and we are on target and on schedule to be operating the third week of March, and we'll operate the remainder of the year. So we were one of the only ones that operated during the pandemic.
Yeah, Marcy, share that a little bit. I want my audience to hear this because I bet a lot of people didn't know this.
Okay, so in 2020, when the pandemic unfortunately was at an all-time high, we actually operated our ship on the Rhine River, carrying over 1,800 guests. And we had very, very happy people. We were the only river line operating. It was very, very successful. And it allowed us to perfect our protocols. So if indeed there still are some protocols in place, our ships are ready to go. And that is one of the reasons that we will not cancel. We are ready to go. We have guests that need that vacation, that want that vacation. And, you know, we're not going to disappoint in any way. So I'm very excited to say that, yes, we are looking forward to our spring season, which again starts the third week of March, and we'll roll it all the way through the entire year. So yes, we operated, we had no incidents, we had absolutely wonderfully happy people.
And by the way, if there are other rivers of the world you're interested in, please contact us. We can help you with that. AMA Waterways is one of their top producers and sellers of AMA Waterways cruises. They work with us so incredibly well. And almost all of you know that many of you have been with us on AMA Waterways, or you've been on AMA Waterways, you know how great they are. Marcy, I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank everybody listening today for joining us. And you know what? I think you said it best. See you on the river, and you deserve a great vacation. We want to help you. So thanks so much, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
Adios. Adios, everybody. Thanks for joining us.